feast for the senses. In terms of looking at what was worn today, what caught your eye?
It has to be the Queen Consort, I think. I think she looked absolutely spectacular. And I think all the stories and the meaning behind her outfit was really, really moving, actually.
So this was a Bruce Oldfield design gown, and it was very much a gown. And would you say there are sort of rules to be followed when you are making a gown for something as significant as this?
Well, it is an historical gown. It's immediately going to, be a moment in history, and so absolutely needs to be safe. It needs to be sort of comfortable. It needs to be respectful. I think it needs to be a nod to all the traditions. It has the lovely embroidery on it, which represents the four nations. So it's a very special thing, and no one better really than Bruce, who is a trusted person to make the gown.
Explain that to me then. What does it take from somebody who is a couturier to make something that can work throughout the day? Because you've got to be able to get up and down steps and in and out of carriages and sit comfortably and not look like you're trussed up like a Christmas turkey. What does it take in skill to make a gown like that?
Well, I think comfort matters, and
yes,
not creasing, all those really obvious basic things that matter, especially in this sort of weather. But I think also someone you've worked with before, so that you feel yourself as well. I think that's very important on the day. He has an amazing history as well, actually, Bruce Oldfield. He's dressed many royals, and actually also is a real inspiration, actually, with having been brought up in a Bernardo's home and actually really being an inspiration to people who've come from sort of humble beginnings. So it's a really lovely story as well.
Yes, because he has had a long and very storied career, but this surely must be the point at which he says, I've reached the top. Today is a day to breathe out for Bruce Oldfield.
I think he deserves it, actually. He's a thoroughly nice man.
India, what did you make of the beautiful stuff that we saw today, particularly in the Abbey?
I thought it was very reassuring, because I think there's been much discussion about we're going to lose some of our pomp and circumstance and pageantry, and the fact that the dukes and a number of the peers have been invited not to wear their ermine robes. But I don't think we missed that at all. I think we saw everything to perfection. Penny Mordaunt standing there, not only with that historic sword clutched to her chest, but also her headpiece, which was made by Jane Taylor Millinery, and I actually wore a hat by her for the Queen's funeral. So again, it's lovely to see these British brands coming out. I'm wearing something called Susanna of London, and the Duchess of Edinburgh also was wearing something made by this brand, To the Ground. I loved seeing the long again. At the Queen's coronation, everybody was in long. That was the trend. Obviously, the King's coronation before that, everyone was in long. So it was lovely to see the Princess of Wales and the Duchess of Edinburgh in long.
The formality of these events, do you think, we had lockdown. Everybody was in elasticated waistbands and trainers. What we saw today is another way of being, is that formality. People, more generally, are not required to get this dressed up. But do you think events like today help to promote that idea that actually it's terribly nice sometimes to really make the effort?
Yes, I think it is. I think definitely. And I think Jamie Oliver said to you earlier about minding your P's and Q's when you're around His Majesty. And I think that there needs to still be a sense of that, a few P's and Q's. I think our Princess of Wales gets it absolutely right, where she is so beautifully dressed in often a high street brand that we can all understand and feel inspired by, and it's attainable. That's a brilliant balance that we're seeing now, and yet she looks absolute perfection every time.
Yes, let's talk for a moment, why don't we, Anya, about the Princess of Wales, because we saw her today wearing this Dame Grand Cross robes as the other immediate members of the female members of the royal family, where underneath it she was wearing an Alexander McQueen gown. I'm wondering if on the balcony we might get a right good look at that, because I'd like a right good look at it. And very interestingly, quite a contemporary trend of her daughter Charlotte, aged 8, wearing precisely the same thing as Mum, but just a child's version of it.
Very much the mini-me, which is actually rather charming. And I think again, the beautiful workmanship, the craftsmanship, and actually craft is really important. I think that's at the heart of British fashion. We mustn't forget the craftsmen. They are the heroes, I think, of fashion in so many respects. And the embroiderers, the amazing gold bullion thread. It's really special work that just takes many hands and many, many days.
Hats, of course, are a complete nightmare for most of us. If we have to go to something when we have to wear a hat, it's not often a great moment. And we saw today a different interpretation, not a tiara, not a hat, but the Princess of Wales was wearing, it did look elaborate, but in an entirely appropriate way. What did you make of it?
So it's a rather lovely headpiece by Jess Collett, actually, who in fact was actually, her business was funded initially by a fund from the Prince's Trust.
Oh, wonderful.
It's a really nice sort of full circle moment. And I think a nod to a fresh new start of the monarchy, and very much, I think, out of respect respect for our new king, who is I think requested no tiaras and loves, obviously has a passion for nature and sustainability and the environment. So I think it's very much out of respect to him.
Yes, India, just briefly, what did you make of those headpieces? I thought they were quite stunning on both the little princess.
I thought it was so appropriate, and Anya said it beautifully. There was that moment as the king and queen got into that incredible state carriage where you thought, are they going to lose the crown? Are we going to have a crown rolling off? But they did it brilliantly, and there must have been quite a lot of practice on that. Talking about creasing, you know, my own experience of coming down the Mall was Princess Diana's wedding train, which
when
was
you were a
25
bridesmaid,
feet
of
long.
course, yeah.
And of course, you can practice so much, and they had practiced with the 25 foot, and we'd done that in the Abbey. But once she got into that coach, nobody anticipated how much material there was going to be. She had her quite large father, and so when she got out the other end, it was a nightmare. As Anya has pointed out, you've got to anticipate the creases.
You're both very strict and I like it. So many rules, so many things to think about. Thank you so much for your expert analysis. That was really interesting.
The coronation of King Charles, the oldest heir to the British throne, was a momentous occasion that captured the attention of people around the world. On this historic day, Queen Camilla looked absolutely stunning in her elegant and regal attire. Queen Camilla wore a beautiful ivory silk dress that was adorned with intricate embroidery and lace. The dress featured a flattering V neckline and long sleeves with a long train that cascaded down her back. To complement her look, she also wore a sparkling diamond tiara, diamond earrings, and a diamond necklace. As the world watched, King Charles was crowned in a magnificent ceremony that blended ancient traditions with modern elements. The coronation was held at Westminster Abbey, where the newly crowned King Charles received the royal scepter and the orb. The ceremony was steeped in history and tradition, as the Archbishop anointed King Charles with holy oil and placed the crown upon his head. The coronation was a momentous occasion, marking the beginning of a new era in British history. As King Charles and Queen Camilla looked out over the crowds of well-wishers, they knew that they had a significant role to play in the future of their country. Their reign would be marked by challenges and triumphs, but they were committed to serving their people with grace, wisdom, and dignity. In conclusion, the coronation of King Charles and the attire of Queen Camilla were both stunning and significant moments in British history. Their coronation ushered in a new era for the British monarchy, and Queen Camilla's attire added to the beauty and splendor of the occasion.